A very good evening to you all. We will discuss about medicinal chemistry today. But dear students, I want to ask a question that did you ever get sick? I repeat, did you ever get sick? Yes, of course. We are all living beings and every living being at one point or the other will become sick. And what we do when we get sick? We go to a doctor and doctor after testing us will give some prescription after following which we'll get relief from the disease or our disease gets cured, right? So what is that magical substance which cured our disease? It's nothing but medicine. And now whole world is looking for such a magical substance for the prevention or cure of novel coronavirus infection, that is COVID-19, right? So a medicine is nothing but a substance which can prevent or cure a disease. And medicinal chemistry is nothing but a science which deals with the discovery and design of new therapeutic substances and their development into potent medicines or drugs. Medicines and drugs, they both share a similar meaning. Let us see briefly what are the steps involved in drug discovery, development and drug discovery and development. Medicinal chemistry is all about 3 Ds. One is discovery, design and development. Okay, so let us see the stages involved in this drug discovery and development very briefly. First, assume that you are writing some exam. Okay, so before you start answering, first you understand the question properly, isn't it? Before we start answering, we must understand the question properly. In the same way, before we design a drug, we must understand the disease, the causes and the effect of the disease. This is nothing but pathology. So once this pathology study is done, then we have to identify the drug target. This drug target is nothing but, these targets are just biomolecules which are often proteins or genes which are involved in particular disease. By targeting these biomolecules, that is proteins or genes, with our drug, then the disease will be addressed and therapeutic effect will be produced. So this is about the drug target identification. And once we are sure with the drug target identification, we have to go for lead identification. What is lead? Lead molecule. This is any chemical substance which has activity, biological activity, which can go and bind to the target molecule at the specific site and could able to produce biological effect, that is therapeutic effect. That is called as lead compound. Okay, this is a chemical substance and this lead compound can often identified by virtual screening using computational methods. Okay, once our lead compound is done, then we have to optimize the lead compound. Means we have to prepare different analogues of the lead compound. We have to prepare different analogues of that lead compound and we have to test in the search of producing the best one with high efficacy and low toxicity. This is called as lead optimization. Once the drug is prepared in the laboratory, then that drug will be subjected for the preclinical studies where the in vitro studies and animal testing will be done for the drug. And once this preclinical studies is done, then it will go for clinical studies. In clinical studies, the drug will be tested on humans. Okay, and if the drug passes all these steps, then the regulatory authority, which is a government body, will process a review on it, and when it satisfies all the norms, then it approves the drug entry into the market. Okay, even after a drug is released into the market, there is always a continuous monitoring of the drug. Okay, so this is all about drug discovery and development. All this process takes an average time of nearly 10 to 15 years. Okay, it is a very typical process. And then before we talk about medicines, drugs and etc., first we have to understand the disease. What is a disease? Disease means lack of ease. Lack of ease is nothing but disease, or it is any condition that impairs the body from normal functioning. Okay, and these diseases are basically divided into 4 types. First one is infectious diseases and deficiency diseases, hereditary diseases and physiological diseases. Let us discuss about infectious diseases. These are the diseases which are caused by pathogens, microorganisms such as virus, bacteria, fungi, etc. And they are transmitted from one person to other person by means of air, water and insects. These are called as airborne diseases, waterborne diseases and insect-borne diseases. Example for airborne diseases. Can you give any example for airborne diseases? Yes, of course. Coronavirus infection, it's an airborne disease only, because when the infected person, when he sneezes or coughs, the little droplets will be delivered into the air. And when a person beside him, when he breathes, he takes that through air. So the infection is transmitted from one person to other person. That's why we are advised to use masks and ensure the physical distance. Okay. So example is coronavirus infection. And can you say any other airborne infections? Of course, TB. Yes. And let us go for waterborne diseases. This is contaminated water, through contaminated water. These diseases occur through contaminated water. Example, cholera and typhoid. And insect-borne. These insects are just vectors, and examples are malaria and filaria. Here the vectors are mosquitoes. And next go for deficiency diseases. Deficiency diseases, they are caused by the improper diet. Okay, means if there is insufficient of vitamins and minerals, then your body cannot work properly. So that kind of disease we call it as deficiency diseases. For example, vitamin C deficiency will cause scurvy. What is that scurvy? Yes, bleeding gums. Okay, and vitamin D deficiency, it causes rickets. And vitamin D deficiency along with the calcium deficiency will cause, what it will cause? Osteoporosis. Right? Then go for hereditary diseases. Hereditary, these diseases, they occur because of abnormality in genes. Okay? Examples for these hereditary diseases are Huntington disease, which affects the nervous system, and sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia. In sickle cell anemia, the red blood cells will distort from their shape and it will become like sickle shape. And eventually, this sickle shaped RBCs will get ruptured. So, there is a reduction of number in red blood cells. This causes anemia, which is called as sickle cell anemia. Okay, and then physiological diseases. These occur because of the malfunction of the body. If your body is not functioning properly, if the systems are not working properly, then these diseases will occur. For example, diabetes. If there is insufficient insulin production in the body, then it will cause diabetes, right? And cancers also, uncontrolled growth of the cells which causes cancer. This also comes under physiological diseases. Now we will discuss about drug. As I said already, a drug has a similar meaning with the medicine. A drug is any substance which is used in the diagnosis, treatment or prevention of a disease. As you can see, there are different forms of dosage forms of a drug. Solid, can you say any examples for solid drugs? Yes, tablets and capsules, right? And liquids also, semi-solids, ointments, creams, right? All of them are semi-solids. And liquids, yes, syrups, oils and suspensions. And gaseous form, yes, chloroform and nitrous oxide, these are used as anesthetic agents, okay? And aerosols also, these are effective in the treatment of asthma, okay? And from the solid to liquid form, dosage form of the drug, the fastness of the uptake increases. Means body will uptake a gas drug more faster than a solid drug. We will go for the sources of drugs. What are the sources of the drug? From where can we get those drugs? So there are basically two types of sources. One is natural and another is synthetic. Natural means we get them from nature, and synthetic means we prepare them in the laboratory. Okay. Example for natural sources drugs. In natural sources again we have plants, animals, microorganisms and minerals. Okay. And from plants, morphine, which is used as analgesic, and Taxol, which is anti-cancer agent, and quinine, which is anti-malarial. All these are the drugs that we can extract from different parts of a plant. And next we go to animals. Okay, if insulin and heparin. Insulin is, what is insulin? It is used for treatment of diabetes. And heparin, it acts as anticoagulant, means it will prevent the clotting of the blood. Okay. And vitamins also, many vitamins, especially lipid soluble vitamins, that we can extract from animals. And microorganisms, what drugs we get from microorganisms? Okay, what can you say? Penicillin can be extracted from the fungi called as Penicillium notatum, and also streptomycin, that is also extracted from bacteria. And then minerals, body needs potassium, sodium, calcium and zinc, copper, fluoride and iodine, etc. And even gold also, gold based complexes, they are used in rheumatoid arthritis, which is a chronic inflammation disease, right? Where you get joint pains in rheumatoid arthritis. And then we'll go for synthetic drugs. Example for synthetic drugs means these are the drugs which are prepared in the laboratory. For example, aspirin, ibuprofen, dapsone, which is an anti-leprosy drug, etc. And semi-synthetic. Semi-synthetic means we have halfway it is natural and then it will be continued in a synthetic way. So, ampicillin or amoxicillin, both of antibiotics, they are prepared in a semi-synthetic way. It is prepared first 6-APA and then it is prepared in a semi-synthetic way to get ampicillin. The same for amoxicillin. They both act as antibiotics. Let us discuss about pharmacology. So, till now we understand what is medicinal chemistry and what are the different stages involved in it, and what is a drug, what kind of diseases are there, and what are the sources of the drug. And now we will learn about pharmacology. In Greek, pharmakon means drug. and logia means studies. So the study of drugs is called as pharmacology. Simple, it is the study of drugs. And this pharmacology involves the nature of the drugs, source of the drugs, and how the drug is moving inside the body, and how the drug is interacting with the body, and how the body is responding to the drug. All this will be studied in pharmacology. And next we will talk about pharmacophore. Pharmacophore, it is an important part in a drug molecule which is responsible for the biological activity of the given compound. And the spatial arrangement of the atoms or moieties is also plays an important role in pharmacophore. If you see these 4 molecules, in all these molecules you have a similar moieties, a similar arrangement of moieties, that is 2 aryl rings and 1 tertiary amine. You can see the model here. Okay, because of this model, because all these molecules are having this model, these are acting as an antihistamine. This model, this arrangement is reason responsible for the antihistamine activity of these drugs. What are antihistamines? These are the drugs used for treating cold or allergies, right? The molecular arrangement is also important, means the distance between these 2 moieties and the plane they are residing and the angle between them. All these factors will play an important role in a pharmacophore. Now we will go for drug nomenclature. Do we all have multiple names or not? Do you have only single name? No, right? One formal name in the college register and one nickname in the friend circle and another nickname in the parents circle, right? So in the same way, drugs also have different names. For a single drug we have different names, and they are chemical name, generic name and trade name. Okay, and this chemical name, it tells about the chemical structure of the body. It tells about the chemical structure of the drug. Sorry. For example, if you see, what is this? This is benzoic acid, right? And this is acetyl group. Whole this group is acetoxy. So this is 2-acetoxy benzoic acid. So the name is 2-acetoxy benzoic acid, or it can be called as acetyl salicylic acid. So this name is telling about the chemical structure of the compound. Often the chemical name always tells about the chemical structure of the compound. It can be your IUPAC name also. And then generic name. Generic name is given by the regulatory authority. It is a government body when the drug is first discovered. Okay, and that regulatory authority has given the name aspirin for this. Okay, and the trade name is given by the pharmaceutical company, the manufacturer who is preparing, who is giving that molecule, who is delivering that molecule into the market. That is that person will that company will give the trade name. For aspirin, the trade names are Dispirin and Asproclear. And second, aspirin is used as analgesic, and also it is working, it can show as activity as antipyretic also, means reducing fever. Analgesic is nothing but reducing body pains. And in the second drug, you can see it is N-dimethyl biguanide, means you can see biguanide structure where this N is substituted with 2 methyl groups. So it is N-dimethyl biguanide. So the name is telling about the structure. So this is the chemical name of this compound, and the generic name is given as metformin, and it is available in the market with the name glucophase. Often this trade name, they are short and they are unique, easy to remember, and often they link the drug name to its use for what it is intended. If you see cold act, okay, means it is acting against cold. Here also Shen C, what is the use? This is useful for C vitamin uptake. And here also Zincovit means in this you can get the supplements of zinc and multiple vitamins. And here also as the cure, here it is giving information of the drug. Many trade names, they give some information of the drug present in it. Here the drug present in it is asthalin. Now we will see the classification based on therapeutic activity. Means what kind of action it is showing. Based on that, we classified the drugs into three main groups. One is chemotherapeutic agents, and second one is pharmacodynamic agents, third one is vitamins and hormones. Chemotherapeutic agents, these are the drugs, they fight against the microorganisms and their infections, okay, without harming the host cell. For example, antibiotics, they will fight against the microorganisms. Can you give me any examples for antibiotics? Yes, penicillin, ampicillin, amoxicillin, right? And antiviral, there are different, means these drugs, they work against virus. Example, acyclovir, valganciclovir, oseltamivir, right? Even for corona also, corona is also virus, right? And even till today we don't have a particular treatment for corona. Even the doctors are doing hit and trial method, and in this coronavirus so far we have tried combination drugs like the combination of anti-malarial hydroxychloroquine with Azax, that is azithromycin, that also worked well. And plasma therapy also we have done, means the doctors have tried, that is also okay, it is showing good effect only. And then we have now remdesivir. This is showing a promising effect against this coronavirus. This is able to stop the replication of the coronavirus. So hope that this will show some path for the treatment of this coronavirus. And then antifungal drugs, they are used against fungal diseases. Example, clotrimazole, antibacterial, sulfonamide, antiprotozoal, albendazole, anti-leprosy, dapsone, anti-tuberculosis, it is isoniazid. Then we will discuss pharmacodynamic agents. These are the drugs which act on a system, let it be respiratory system or your gastrointestinal system or your central nervous system, like that, or your renal system. They work on a system in your body. For example, anesthetics, they work on the central nervous system, okay. And anticonvulsants, they also work on the central nervous system. Example for anticonvulsant is gabapentin and neurontin, okay. And anesthetics also, it works on the central nervous system. There are two types like general anesthesia and local anesthesia. Lidocaine and benzocaine, they are local anesthetics, and chloroform and nitrous oxide, they are used as general anesthesia. Hypertension also, where we use telmisartan. Hypertension is the case where the blood pressure is high. For treating this, the drug we use is telmisartan, one of the drug, I am just saying examples. And antipyretics, the reduction of temperature of the body, that those drugs are called as antipyretics. They also work on central nervous system. Example for antipyretics, you already know that paracetamol. And aspirin also, it works both as antipyretic and analgesic. Say analgesic, example, morphine. Analgesic is pain removal, pain relief, it gives pain relief, okay. It also works on the central nervous system. Example is aspirin and morphine also, cocaine also. And diuretics means they work on the renal system. Example, diuryl. And the third kind of drugs is vitamins and hormones. So our body needs vitamins and hormones, 13 vitamins and minerals it needs, and there are drugs. If we get insufficiency of those vitamins, then we have to take externally. The drugs are vitamin A, vitamin D, E, K. Vitamin E is generally we can see in capsules, that is liquid, and vitamin B different classification is again there in B, C. In vitamin A, D, E, K they are lipid soluble, and B, C are water soluble, and thyroxine hormone also, which is used in the treatment of hypothyroidism, and these are the drugs which comes under the vitamins and hormones section. Now we will see the routes of administration of drugs. How a drug is administered into the body. Okay, what do you mean by administration of drug? Okay, administration route is nothing but the path by which a drug enters the body is called as administration route. There are 4 different types of routes of administration. One is enteral, second one is parenteral, and topical and inhalation. Enteral means that this is the route which involves GIT, gastrointestinal tract, like oral and sublingual, buccal and rectal. Oral means you are taking a tablet or a syrup through mouth, swallowing, chewing, all that comes under oral drug administration. And sublingual, and you know what different examples, generally paracetamol is taken orally, and cough syrups or some syrups they are taken orally, right? And sublingual means these are the drugs which are kept under the tongue, okay, and they get directly mixed with the blood circulation. That is called as sublingual route of administration. For example, GTN, glyceryl trinitrate, which is administered through sublingually, and it is used in case of heart failures and high blood pressures. Okay, because this will be directly included in, it will be directly introduced into the bloodstream, and it shows immediate effect. If it is given orally, it will take time to show the effect. And buccal route is also similar to sublingual, but it is in between your cheek and the gum. Okay, and next is for buccal we can use midazolam, that is an epileptic seizure drug. We generally administer through buccal way. And rectal way, this is when the patient is unconscious, and it is more useful in case of children. And generally ergotamine, which is the treatment of migraines, and those drugs are administered through rectal way. And laxatives also, they are administered through rectal way. Next thing is parenteral. In this parenteral means it is via injection. We do have different kinds of injections in this section. First one is intradermal. If you see, the intradermal is given into the skin, right? And often vaccines, there are some vaccines they are given in this way. If you see, the angle matters. If you see the angle of needle of the injection, for different kind of injection the angle is changing. For intramuscular it is 90, subcutaneous it is 45. So the angle is really important. And subcutaneous is the tissue in between your dermis and muscle. And the drugs, the injection given to the subcutaneous, example, it is insulin. Insulin is administered through subcutaneous way. And insulin is treatment for diabetes, yes. And then intramuscular. Intramuscular means the injection is given to the muscle. Example, penicillins or streptomycin are given to the muscle, okay. And also morphine, which is an analgesic, that is also given intramuscularly. And intravenous means injecting the drug directly into the vein. This is called as intravenous. Example for intravenous is Taxol and cisplatin and doxorubicin. All these 3 are anti-cancer agents. And gentamicin, which is antibiotic, that is also given intravenously. And then intrathecal. Intrathecal means here the injection is given to the spinal canal. Okay, spinal canal. And spinal anesthesia is generally involved in this way. And then intraarterial means the injection is directly given to the artery. For chemotherapy, for the treatment of malignant cancers, that this way is used. And then intracardiac means the injection is given into the ventricle of the heart. The other classification, third one is topical, means it is the surface application. First one is epidermic means it is just the surface application. You are applying the ointment only on the surface of the skin, that is called as an epidermic. Some ointments, creams, lotions, they are all applied in that way. And next one is epidermic, means applying the drug, applying the oil while rubbing, that is called as epidermic, means action applying through rubbing, that is what you see in epidermic. And insufflation means these drugs are introduced by the action of blowing either solid or a gaseous drug into the body cavities. Okay. And then instillation means it is generally for the liquid compound, liquid drugs. The administration of those liquid drugs drop by drop into body cavities like eyes and ears, nasal drops, they all come under instillation. And irrigation is a kind of cleaning process or washing process, washing the wounds or washing the body cavities, they are done in this irrigation way. And if you see this is a transdermal patch. Okay, transdermal patch, these also deliver drug into the bloodstream slowly over a period of time. Okay, and this kind of transdermal patches means there is adhesive which will which will stick onto your skin, and it will release the drug slowly up to some time. Okay, these are the drugs like vitamin B2, B12. If there is deficiency, that can be given in this transdermal patch. And there also nicotine patches are there. Means if a person is unable to quit, if he is addicted to smoking, and these nicotine patches are given, what it will do is it will give little amount of nicotine. It will this patch will release little amount of nicotine into the blood circulation, and over a period of time the doctors will decrease the concentration of the dosage of the nicotine that they are giving. So eventually, by the decreasing levels of nicotine, the person will not feel that addiction as he felt before. Okay. And the fourth one is inhalation methods, and this involves gas inhalation and nebulization. These inhalers, first if you see, these are inhaler, so administration through mouth. Okay, and this is aerosol, which is nothing but solid or liquid in air, that is called as aerosol. So, and nebulization, in nebulization a liquid will be converted into a mist by the help of in the presence of pressurized oxygen. So that is called as nebulization. This inhaler is portable, and it gives this as I said before itself, that the gaseous drugs, they absorb faster and they show effect faster. So these inhalers and nebulizers will give quick relief, and this is useful for the asthma patients. Then we will go for pharmacokinetics. What is pharmacokinetics? Already we have discussed what is pharmacon. Pharmacon means drug. Okay, pharmacokinetics. Kinetics is the subject that deals with the movement, right? And pharmacon means, already we have written that it is drug. So the movement of the drug inside the body. Okay, the study which deals with the movement of the drug inside the body is called as pharmacokinetics. This involves 4 stages, that is absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion. Okay, absorption of the drug, how the drug is absorbed into the body. Okay, what do you mean by absorption? Means the entry of the drug into the blood, right? Means from the route of administration to the systemic circulation, which is nothing but blood. This process is called as absorption. Okay, and this absorption, if a drug is taken orally, the drug will administer through the intestines and the drug will move to liver where it undergo metabolism, which is called as first pass effect. Then it will be released into the bloodstream. So in oral drug, the bioavailability is less because of this first pass effect. But if the drug is taken, if the drug is directly introduced into the bloodstream, like if you have seen in sublingual and buccal and intravenous, there is 100% bioavailability of the drug. Means the whatever you administer is completely into the blood circulation. But in case of oral, always the bioavailability is less. More the first pass effect means lesser will be the bioavailability of the drug. And then next step, once the drug from the route of administration to the systemic circulation means blood, when reaching to the blood is absorption, and then from the blood it has to be distributed to the body parts, and ultimately it has to reach the site of action where it has to show its action. That is what we call it as distribution. Okay, this distribution again depend upon many factors. That lipophilicity of the drug is more, then the distribution will be more, because if a lipophilic drug will be able to pass the cell membranes easily, right? So lipophilicity of the drug will, and blood flow also, if the blood flow is good to certain body part, then the distribution will be also good to that part, right? And then there is a concept like PPB, plasma protein binding. The drug in the blood will bind to the plasma protein, and more the binding of drug to the plasma, less will be the distribution to the tissues. And also there is tissue binding. If there is more plasma binding, then less efficient the drug will diffuse from one tissue to the other tissue, or it will diffuse with very less efficiency. If PPB is more, then distribution is less. Tissue binding. If the drug bind to a tissue, then it will cause side effects or toxic effects. Tissue binding is also causes much toxicity, right? And once the drug is distributed to the site of action and the therapeutic effect or biological effect is shown, then the next step is metabolism. Here if you see these ADME properties, this A and D, they are drug in process, and M and E, metabolism and excretion, these are drug out process. Means these two arrange some process to excrete the drug. So why metabolism happens? Because the body will see the drug as a foreign substance and it will tries to eliminate it. If the drug is hydrophilic, then it will be removed as urine without any structural change of the drug. But if the drug is lipophilic, then it cannot be removed through urine or through renal system. So what the body will do is, it has to change that non-polar drug to polar drug, okay, and non-polar drug to polar one. So this is done by the enzymes present. So these enzymes present, they will transform this non-polar drug to a polar one by reactions like oxidation, reduction or hydrolysis. So these are the reactions. So this is called as enzymatic biotransformation. Enzymatic biotransformation means a transformation, changing one form to other form assisted by enzyme in the living system. So it is transformation and in the living system by the assistance of enzyme. So it is enzymatic biotransform. So this metabolism happens in two phases. In phase 1, the non-polar drug will be converted to a polar one by the reactions like oxidation, reduction or hydrolysis. In the presence of enzymes, these are biocatalysts, they catalyze the reaction, and once they are changed to polar metabolites, This is called as phase 1 metabolism. In the phase 2 metabolism, these polar metabolites will be conjugated to a water soluble small molecule which is available in the body, such as glucuronic acid, sulfates and amino acids. Then these polar metabolites, they will be conjugated to polar molecules such as glucuronic acid, and now whatever the product it is, whatever the transformed product it is coming now, it is now polar and hydrophilic one. So overall in metabolism phase 1 and phase 2, what we have got? We have changed the non-polar lipophilic drug to the polar hydrophilic one. Once it is polar and once it is hydrophilic, it can be easily excreted through the urine or renal system. Okay, that is comes in the fourth stage, that is excretion or elimination. In this, if the drug is polar hydrophobic, that will be removed through renal system. If the drug is hydrophobic or if there is any unabsorbed drug, that will be excreted through fecal matter, and if the drug is a gaseous drug, okay, then those will be eliminated as pulmonary excretions. So this is the process of absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion of a drug. How a drug is absorbed and how it is distributed, how it shown biological effect and why it is showing toxic effect, and as body is seeing the drug as a foreign element, okay, so it will show, it will undergo some metabolism to change the structure of the drug, to convert into non-polar to polar, lipophilic to hydrophilic, for easing the elimination of the drug. The next thing is the safety matters, right? And around 500 years ago, a physician called as named as Paracelsus, he gave a statement. He is a physician and chemist also, and he gave a statement that all things are poison, right? Only the dose matters. Everything is poison only the dosage matters. Okay, even it is your vitamins, minerals, excess is not at all suggestible. Excess is always toxic. Same with your drug. Drug should always be taken within a prescribed dosage. If we take the overdosage, then it will not work like a medicine, but it will work like a poison. So the dosage really matters, and the safety of the medicines is generally measured with a term called as therapeutic index. So before seeing all this therapeutic index and that, first let us see what is this effective dose and toxic dosage. Effective dosage is that the dosage of the drug at which the desirable therapeutic is shown for the 50% of the test sample. ED 50, effective dosage 50%, means it is the drug dosage where the desirable therapeutic effect is seen in 50% of the test sample, and TD 50 is the dosage of the drug at which it is showing a toxic effect in the 50% of the test sample. So this is ED, and if the distance between these two, the difference between these two increases, means the safety of the drug is also increasing. Effective dose, less effective dose means more efficient the drug is, right? And less effective dose means more effective the drug is, and high TD, high toxic dose means after you take much concentration of the drug, it is becoming toxic, means the drug is safe only. So less effective dose and more toxic dose are suggestible. So the difference between these two increases, means the therapeutic index is increasing. So for whatever the drug, if it is having high therapeutic index, it will be having a good safety. Means it is even if you take little dosage more also, it will not show that toxic effect. That's what we define it from therapeutic index. The therapeutic index is nothing but the ratio of therapeutic toxic dosage of a drug for 50% of the population. Okay, toxic dosage by effective dosage. Always your effective dosage should be small, because your drug will be efficient if its effective dosage is less, and your drug will be less toxic if toxic dosage is more. Okay, and if this ratio is more, means that drug will be safer comparatively. And this is in the case of humans, but in case of animals, this toxic dosage is replaced by lethal dosage. Means lethal dosage means where the 50% of the test samples get killed. That toxic, that dosage of the drug is called as LD50, lethal dosage for 50% of the test population, by again effective dosage, where the 50% of the animals are showing desired therapeutic effect. So what did you understand from this? And this is a measure of the safety of the drug. More the therapeutic index, more the safe the drug is, more safe the drug is, right? And these are some examples. Remifentyl, this is analgesic. This is having highest therapeutic index, 33,000. Okay, and caffeine, which is present in coffee, which is a CNS stimulant which activates your central nervous system, that has a therapeutic index of 100. Penicillin, which is antibiotic, that has therapeutic index of 100. Okay, aspirin, it has aspirin, analgesic, which works on central nervous system, has a TI of 50. Paracetamol has a TI of 10. More TI, more safe, and less TI, more toxic. And okay, we all understand about the disease, drugs and everything, but is there any chance to avoid a disease? It's a secret, but it is simple, that only three. First one is healthy diet, and second one is physical exercise, and third one is adequate sleep, means sufficient sleep, enough rest. So if we go into the first slide, in the first slide we have discussed infectious diseases. If you have good immunity, then your body can fight against infectious diseases. If you are taking some good dietary, then your body will be having more means enough vitamins and minerals, so you don't get any deficiency diseases also. So here you can fight against infectious. Here you can there is no question of deficiency, because already you are taking a good health. So by taking good diet, you can avoid 2 types of diseases out of 4 in the classification. And third one is physiological diseases that we have seen. If you are doing physical exercise like yoga and enough rest, that's where your all the system of the body gets stimulated and balanced. Okay, and disease control and prevention, this is a commission which told that sleep allows, adequate sleep, it allows the body to regulate the blood pressure by itself. So if you are maintaining these 3, means healthy diet, physical exercise and adequate sleep, believe me, you can avoid 90% of the diseases. This is your assessment, like doxorubicin and cisplatin, they are anti-cancer agents, and the source is isoniazid synthetic, insulin is animal, cisplatin the source is synthetic, amoxicillin it is semi-synthetic, and quinine it is plant-based and natural. Penicillin it is again from microorganisms. Metformin is anti-diabetic drug. Expand ADME, absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion. So this is your assignment. So you have to write an assignment on the drugs which you have taken recently, means from your last prescription, like where the drug belongs and what are the sources, the chemical structure, what is the generic name of it, chemical name of it, and what is the route of administration. Okay. When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use, and when diet is correct, medicine is of no need. So eat healthy and stay healthy. Thank you.